Hello, and thanks for joining me on this edition of Simply Saturday. My name is Julie. This is Stamp with Julie Baum, and I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! Today I'm going to be showing you a fast and easy tag, but since we mostly do cards here on Simply Saturday, I'm also going to show you how to convert it into a card. The stamp set that I'm showing you is called With You in Mind, and it is in the new January to April mini catalog. It's pictured on page 18, and this is where I got the inspiration from. I'll probably be doing another episode or two showing this very versatile stamp set and using the photos right here in the catalog as our inspiration. I think this will be fun. All right, let's start our tag. For today's project, I'm going to be using the Thinking of You stamp and also this little flower. All right, I'm going to show you a couple other ones that I did as well so that you can see some of the other stamps in action. All right, I've got my Stampin' Pierce mat here, which I am going to use today, and I also have my little silicone mat, which is going to come in handy, and I have my piece of cardstock that we're starting with. This is just basic white cardstock, and it is 2¼ inches by 4½ inches. Now I have this tiny sliver of paper, and one thing that's so fun about a lot of the cards that we do here at Simply Saturday is you can take the idea or the inspiration and then use what you have. But if you like to copy along with what I'm doing, you'll want to know that this is one of the papers that is a pack of paper you can earn for free during Celebration. It is called Bloom Impressions. It's shown here inside the Celebration brochure, and we used this paper in Stamp Club this month as well, and if you've seen that video you would have seen a different pattern of this paper. And as I mentioned, we're just using a tiny little sliver. This is a 3/4 inch by 3 inch piece of paper. So let's put our tag together. To begin with, I'm going to move my Stampin' Pierce mat out of the way and just have my silicone mat here on my stamping surface. So on your desktop, you can prepare that way. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the edge of my white cardstock, and then I'm going to attach my piece of Designer Series paper to it. Now, I didn't want to get the ink right up to the edge because I don't want it to ooze out, so that's why I'm doing it this way. Also, though, I've got my silicone mat here in case any of the glue still does make its way out to the edges. I'm not going to get glue on my stamping surface or perhaps on any other little pieces of paper that are nearby. So I'm going to take my paper and just kind of lay it down, and then I'm going to slide it towards the edge, and I want the end lined up perfectly. I don't want to see any white cardstock on this edge. And as you can see, by leaving the strip longer than I needed, it's very easy to work with. All right, I can press that into place. I know that if any extra glue has seeped out, it's just going to go on this silicone mat, and it looks like I didn't have too much of a problem. Now I'm going to flip this over, and using some scissors, I'm just going to trim the edges of that DSP, those extra pieces that are hanging off the sides. All right, super fast, super easy. Okay, we're done with our glue and we're done with the silicone mat. All right, the next thing we're going to do is our stamping. This is a photopolymer stamp set, and when you have a brand new photopolymer stamp set, sometimes you need to actually stamp the images several times on some scratch paper, just on some copy paper or some scrap that you have. Stamp and stamp again, clean it a couple times, stamp and clean. You just need to kind of condition the stamp itself. Now, I also have another video with some tips and tricks on using your photopolymer stamps, but let me just remind you that usually right out of the box into the ink and on the paper, you're not going to get your cleanest impressions. So I, at this point, have used this stamp several times, and am going to get a better, nice stamped image because of that. So I'm picking up my Shy Shamrock ink, and I'm going to use my Stampin' Pierce mat here, which is another way to get a nice impression when you're using your photopolymer. I want to stamp it up near the top here and way over to this Designer Series paper edge. So looking through my acrylic block, I can line it up right where I want it and get my stamped image. I'm going to press it and give that ink just a moment to sink into the paper before I lift it off. Sometimes we're in a big hurry and we want to stamp and lift it up, and we don't give the ink a second to bond with the paper. There we go. All right, then I'm going to take that little flower, and we're using Melon Mambo ink, and I already know because I tested it that it's going to be too dark for my liking if I go straight from the ink to the paper. So I have a piece of scratch paper here, and I'm going to ink, stamp it off on my scratch paper, and then on to my project so that I get a lighter version of Melon Mambo. Now I'm going to ink again, stamp it off. I'm going to rotate my stamp because I don't want all of my flowers to look absolutely the same. I want them to vary a little bit. And one more time. Now this time I need to get this one about the same distance apart as these are, so I am keeping that in mind. And I'm looking down through my stamp, trying to get that white space evened out a bit, and let's put our third one down. Okay, another way to do that also is to do your outside flowers first, and then it's pretty easy to drop one in the center. So that might be a good method for you as well. All right, let's move our ink pads out of the way. We're going to make a little banner or flag or fishtail in the edge of this paper. You can use your paper snips if you have them, or even just large blade scissors. So to do this, I'm going to make a snip. And I'm starting in the center of my project, and I'm just going to make a snip like that. Now I can take my scissor blade and start at the corner of the piece of cardstock and go right up to where I snipped. And I'm going to do the same from here. This feels backwards to me, so I prefer to just flip this over, and then I'm going the same angle as I did the first time, from the corner to that center. And it's a nice way to get an even V right there. Otherwise, if you try to go from one side and then match it with the other side, chances are it won't be even, and you'll be trying again until you've cut it too short. Okay, now to finish this off, from the picture in the catalog, they did it a slightly different way, but I chose to go ahead and punch a hole here in the designer paper end, and then I'm going to thread some ribbon through. Now I am lucky enough to have some of this white iridescent ribbon, glitter ribbon left. This is not a current product, but I do have some of this left, so I wanted to use it, and I'm just going to feed one end through the hole that I made with my hole punch. And then I'm going to bring the edges of the ribbon together, like so. All right, then I'll take my piece of white baker's twine. This is just from the basic or the essentials pack. I have to see what we're calling it these days. But this is just white. And what I'm going to do is tie my bow with the twine, and it's going to cinch up the ribbon. Like so. Now I am going to tie a bow, but I want this to hold in place. So the first thing I'm going to do is complete my knot. Now I know that that's really holding on to that ribbon well. Okay, and then I can take the twine and make my bow loops. If you watch me often, you can see that I am without long nails right now, and that is very odd. That doesn't happen very often, but at the beginning of the year, I decided it was time for me to take a little break, and then when I'm ready, go get a nice fresh set. So I am in between right now. Okay, what I'm fiddling with this is this little loop here that keeps wanting to twist. I could ignore it, but it's bothering me, so let me show you what I would do. I'm going to untie my bow, and I'm going to pinch the twine between my finger. I'm using my nail and my finger and just pull it to kind of straighten out some of those crinkles. I don't know why that one bow loop kept twisting on me. So let's try again. So as I was saying, it won't be long before I put my nails back on. I do prefer them. And I actually think it's easier to operate when I have some nails than when they're super short like this. All right, it's still twisting a little bit, but it's better. Okay, I'm gonna tighten up my loops and I'm going to trim the tails, but I do want a little bit of a tail. I think it adds to the look of it. This one is through the loop. Who knew the longest part of this was gonna be fiddling with this bow? All right, as I said, I do want to leave a little bit of length on my tails. So I'm going to trim that one and leave this one even a little longer. I like the look of that. I think it's really soft how it's hanging onto the tag. And then if you feel like this needs to be trimmed up a teeny bit, you might want to do that. It was almost perfect, but I think it needed to be a smidge shorter. All right, there is our super cute and fast and easy tag. Now, I'm going to put some embellishments on this, and I'm reaching for the purple adhesive backed sequins. And as you can see, there's different shades of the purple. And for this project, I'm going to go with this darker pink color. Super pretty. And we're just going to add 3 of these. I'm going to use 1 large and 2 small ones. Just to give a little bit of shimmery glimmer to the card. And I think it helps balance out all that yummy glimmer that's going on over here too. All right, there we have a very cute tag. Now, this could be tied to the top of a gift like with the bow, with the ribbon on a package, or you could attach it to a gift bag. And the thing that I like about a super cute tag is you can have a really plain bag, even from like the dollar store. A plain white bag with the little handles and this hanging off it with pink tissue would be simply adorable. So you don't even have to spend a lot on your gift wrap. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to show you 2 other tags that I made when I was inspired by the photos in the mini catalog. So here is a cute birthday tag. In this case, I used Pretty in Pink Designer Series paper, Pretty in Pink hearts, and then I used Poppy Parade as my red ink for the happy birthday. A little bit of bubble bath ribbon. I didn't have any Pretty in Pink ribbon, but the bubble bath looks really good with the Pretty in Pink in this instance. So I just stamped the words and added my hearts. We still have the little fishtail here and a different ribbon treatment. Then I thought, you know, let's do one that could be a little bit more generic or maybe even more male looking. And so I used Shy Shamrock Designer Series paper coupled with Blueberry Bushel. And then instead of only the stars at the bottom, which was my original idea, my words are up high because I was going to just do the 3 stars. And then I decided I would put stars all over it. In this case, to not be quite as cutesy, I chose a denim ribbon, which we also carried a while ago, and simply used some glue dots to stick it to the card or the tag. And then I added a staple. The staple is actually what's going to hold the ribbon in place, but I also think just the chunky metal look of the staple is more masculine. We didn't want to put anything too floofy or feminine on that. So there's our cute little tags made with that stamp set. Now let's convert this one into a card. So quite simply, I'm starting with a thick cardstock base, and this card is going to go in this direction and open like so. Then, because we used Melon Mambo ink here, I picked a piece of Melon Mambo cardstock and I went ahead and put it through the Forever Plaid 3D embossing folder, which I am in love with right now. I can't seem to stop using it. So let's attach that to our card front. Now we've got a lot of texture here because of running that through that 3D embossing folder. So I am going to use a little extra glue than I normally would, because some of it is going to sink down into those little grooves and not really help stick this down. So you can see I've used extra glue this time. And then I'm just going to center this onto my card front. I'm going to flip it so I can really press it down here like so. All right, once we've got that in place, we can go back to our fast and easy tag that we made. And look, all we're going to do is add it to the front of the card. Now, in this instance, you might feel like you want to trim that a little bit. We'll decide after we put it on here. I'm going to put it on with some dimensionals. I'm just about to the end of this one. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my last two full ones here and here. Then I'm going to take my snips and just cut this into chunks. And I'm still going to go ahead and use these little remnants. All right, I was going to put it here, but I think I'm going to do a little extra. I don't want it to sag at all on the card. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my two corners. And then I'm going to put some here in the middle as well. All right, and look, we're using up every bit of those dimensional sheets. All right, removing the backings from those dimensionals. Woo, pulled the whole thing up. Okay, and putting this in place on the front of our card. Look at how fun that was. The tag became the main focus of our card. I'm going to put it a little bit lower. I'm putting the points here as close to the edge of the card as I can so that it will fit, and then I won't have to trim off too much of that. All right, pressing all those dimensionals. Isn't that cute how those long tails are just adding to the softness of the card? All right, and then I will go ahead and trim here. Now, we've already got our stamp out. It already has Melon Mambo ink on it. Let's go ahead and put a couple of those flowers. Where's my scratch paper? Those flowers on the inside. One might do it. Let's put one and see what we think. I think one is going to do it. I was considering 3, but even just the one is adorable. Okay, now before you tune out, let me show you one more thing. When you see the picture in the catalog, the example that they did for the birthday tag, which I also did make one of these. I don't have it within reach to show you, but this little birthday tag, I want to show you how they did the two-tone cupcake in case you don't know how to do that. So instead of making the whole tag, I'm just going to show you the technique on this little scrap of paper. So I've got a scrap of white cardstock, and let's pull out that cupcake from the set. It would be very fast to just stamp the cupcake in one color, just with an ink pad. That would be the fastest method. But it looks so cute with the little tan or crumb cake colored wrapper and the pink frosting. So I wanted to show you how to do that. I haven't done it very often, this technique on Simply Saturday, if at all, ever. So this is kind of fun. All right, let me put my my little cupcake onto my block. So it's ready for stamping. Okay. Now, this technique is very easy to do, but let me point out that you must use the Stampin' Write markers to do this technique. Do not use your Stampin' Blends. Okay, Stampin' Blends are for coloring on the paper only, but your Stampin' Write markers can be used as ink directly on the stamps. Let me also tell you that a cling stamp, that's the red rubber style of stamp instead of the photopolymer, picks up the ink from these Stampin' Write markers much better. It's a little tricky to get a nice impression using your Stampin' Write markers as ink on the photopolymer, but it's not impossible. So, as I mentioned before stamping with this, and especially before trying this technique, I stamped with the cupcake several times, cleaning it in between, making sure that I kind of had conditioned or gotten this stamp ready for use. So I have stamped it several times before trying this technique. Now, with that said, I'm going to take a tan or light brown marker. This is actually an old in color. This is baked brown sugar. What did we call this one? Yep, baked brown sugar, which is not even available, but you could use a crumb cake marker or any of the colors that you wish. So what I'm going to do, we just turned the camera like crazy. What I'm going to do is color with my marker the bottom part of the cupcake, basically the wrapper, the cupcake wrapper, using my marker. And you don't want to be stingy. You want to really, really color it. Lay down your ink there. Then I'm going to take a pink marker in this case and do the frosting. Same thing. I want to leave as much ink as the marker will allow down on this stamp. The red rubber stamps that make up a cling stamp are very accepting to this technique with the markers. All right, at that point, then we're ready to stamp onto the paper, and I am going to use my Stampin' Pierce mat, and we can get our two-tone cupcake like so. Super fun, super cute. Let's do it one more time. You've already got a little bit of ink on the stamp, and so the second one is actually a little faster because you don't have to coat the stamp quite as heavily. There's our frosting. And I'm going to try to get this tan color right up to the edge where the frosting stops and color the rest of the cupcake paper and onto my cardstock. And there you have it. A very easy but effective technique so that you can get two colors of ink onto one stamp. So let's bring our tags back in as we wrap this up. We've got the birthday, we have the boy or guy tag, and then we have our thinking of you tag that we turned into a card. Thanks so much for sticking with me today. I love bringing these ideas to you, and I can't wait for your comments. Let me know if you plan to make some of these tags and use them, and stay tuned as we continue to use the With You in Mind stamp set for a few more fun projects. Until next time, happy stamping.